Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. I made this really simple but super cute shirt to commemorate my 32nd wedding anniversary. I designed it in Embroidery software and I stitched it out on my 12 needle Smartstitch embroidery machine. I'm going to show you step by step how you can make this too. The design for my shirt is something I made in Embroidery. Now, I actually recorded it, but I didn't have my microphone plugged in, so I'm going to go back and recreate it. I want you to see how to make an applique. So I'll double click on Embroidery, and when it opens, it defaults to the last hoop that I used. This is the hoop that we'll use, but if you want to change it, go to Embroidery, click on Settings, and then you can pick a different one. I'm going to start by clicking right here on this Create icon. This is a Stitch Artist function. Once I do that, I can go over here where it says TT. This allows me to use fonts that I have on my computer. So I'll click on that, and then you get this text box down here. This defaults to the last font that I used, and the last font I used was Impact on the shirt. But you can change that by clicking that down arrow and selecting a different font. Now I'm going to highlight over my text, and I'm going to type in all caps the word Wifey. Then I'll say OK. First thing I notice is this needs to be a lot larger, and I'm not going to worry too much about getting this to the exact size that I want, but I'm going to get it close. And that really jumped. Let me make that smaller. I'm going to move it over by clicking on this green square. But let's make it just a little bit taller. And I think it's still too wide, so let's go ahead and make it a little bit narrower. All right, we're going to start there. The next thing I want to do is turn this into an applique. Since I'm still in the Create feature, my stitches show up here, and this is the applique one right here. So I'll click on it. Now, this isn't the type of border that I like to use, so I'm going to go right over here and change it from E-stitch to a satin stitch. If you're familiar with applique, you know that typically there is a placement or a position stitch, then there's a tack down or material stitch, and then finally you have your border, in my case a satin border. But if we look at this in the Stitch Simulator, we'll click on the Stitch Simulator. Right now it only has a placement stitch and then the satin border stitch. So let's go right back up here to Create. Let's click on Wifey, and I can change that right here. All I need to do is check the box to the left of the word material. Now if we go back to the Stitch Simulator, you can see, now they're close to the same color so it's difficult, but you can see that there is a placement stitch, then a tack down stitch, and then lastly the satin border stitches. I'm going to go back up to Create, click on it, and that'll take me out of that Stitch Simulator. The other thing is, this is defaulted to, this is defaulted to a stitch width of 3. I like my satin border stitches to be really thick, really wide. So we're going to change this stitch width. I'm going to click on this little button here, and I'm going to drag it all the way from a 3 to a 5. Okay, it only let me go to 4. Let me just go ahead and delete the 4 and put a 5, and I'll hit return. There we go. That's much wider, but notice now they look like they're just running into each other. So we're going to fix that. So let's click on the W, and I'm going to use the right arrow key on my computer to move it over. Then let's select the E and the Y. Notice how it's dragging around them. I don't want that. So let's go back to Create, click on it. Now I can easily circle around the E and the Y. I'm going to use the right arrow key again, move it over a couple times. Let's go 3 times. And then we're just going to continue this same process. Okay, that looks pretty good. I can live with that for now. I may change it a little bit later. But one thing I notice is I've gotten wider than what I really want. I want to keep this under 10 inches. And I'd really like to keep it closer to 9.5. So let me go ahead and click on Wifey, and then I can just drag from the side, and that's just going to make it narrower and not shorter. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. One thing I'm noticing though, I think the I and the F are a little too close to each other. So let's go ahead and move FEY over one more time. The next thing I'm noticing is there's certain things about these letters I don't love. For example, I think this is a little bit wimpy. I'd like to bulk up the top of the E, the bottom of the E, and the top of the F. To do that, I'm going to click on the E, and then to get my editing points to show up, I'll click on the Create. So notice if I click on Create, they go away, they show up. So if yours don't show up, just go up here and click on Create. There's a couple ways I can do this. I can circle around the points that I want to move, and then on my keyboard I'm going to hit the down arrow. So that made that just a little bit thicker. The other way you can do it is you can click on a point, hold the Command button down, and click on the other point. Let go of Command, and now I'm going to use the up arrow on my keyboard. We're going to do the same thing to the top of the F. We'll click on this point, hold Command down, click on this one, and use that down arrow. The other thing I'm noticing is right over here. Something looks very odd. I feel like these are too deep, that they go down too far. So let's click on the W, and here's one point, here's the other. This point is lower, so let me click on that first, use the up arrow, and try to get those to where they're about even. Now that they are, I'll click on Command, add the left point to it, and I'm going to use the up arrow. I think that looks fine. I would like there to be a little more space on each side of the center of the W. So let's grab these 2 points. You can tell I have the right points because they turn blue. And then I'm going to hit the left arrow on my keyboard. That opened up just a little bit of space. Let's do the same thing over here. Now these get kind of tricky. When I'm working with this, I'd like to just circle it instead of clicking on it. Okay, I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I opened up more space there. One thing I noticed though, look how close it is to the I. So let's click on that W, use the left arrow on my keyboard, and I'll just move the entire letter over. I feel like I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to select Wifey. I can do that by clicking right here, and I'm going to go up to Edit and Group. Now let's do that stitch simulator again. We'll click on it, and I'm just going to start dragging. There's my placement stitch, my tack down stitch, and my satin border stitch. Notice it's doing one letter at a time, and that would be very, very inefficient. All right, let's get out of this by clicking on Create. To fix that issue, I'm going to use one of the features of Embroidery Essentials. I'll go up to Utility, and I'll click on Color Sort. You have the option of saving this in a new view, and that's what I do. Now let's run the stitch simulator again. Notice how now it does all of the placement or position stitches, then all of the tack down stitches, and then all of the satin border stitches. Now I don't love that these are so close to the same color, so I'm going to go right here, click on that material or tack down stitch color, and then we're going to pick something that's very distinguishable. And I don't know why I'm being so picky, but I really like blue, so I'm going to go down here, click on that teal color, and I'll say OK. Noticed it changed, and it also changed here. So if we run the stitch simulator, it's easier to tell the difference between the original placement or position stitch, then the tack down stitch, then the satin border stitch. Okay, so I am close to being done. Let me go ahead and get out of this by clicking on Create. The last thing that I want to do is I want to put this in the center of my hoop. I always put my designs in the center of the hoop so that when I get onto the machine, it's very predictable where that design is going to be. So I'm going to click on Design. I'll go up here to Utility and Center and Hoop. And it barely moved because it was close, but now I know it's in the center of the hoop. Now I'm ready to save this. So I go up to File, Save As, and I save a stitch file and a working file. I save that working file so if I want to come back and change something, I can. So I click on Save As, and then I like to start mine all with EMB, and then I'm just going to call it Wife. Now we're going to move over to the HoopMaster station. We're going to get the shirt ready, we're going to get it hooped up, and then lastly we'll stitch it out. So here's what I've done so far. I turned my shirt inside out, I cut a big piece of no-show mesh, and then I sprayed basting adhesive on it and stuck it to the shirt. For me, I think this is what makes my projects on stretchy fabric turn out so well. This has been sitting for about 5 minutes, so I can go ahead and turn this back right side out. I'm going to use my HoopMaster system today with a hoop that is 11 by 13. Now that's overkill for this shirt, but I don't have the next size down, so it's the best I have. To use the system, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the back of the hoop on the HoopMaster system. The white part goes down. So it feeds under this metal part here, and then it just goes under this piece at the top. Now let's put our tearaway stabilizer on. Now I already have that no-show mesh stabilizer on, but I like to use the second piece, and I like to use tearaway stabilizer. I know the saying, if you wear it, don't tear it, but remember I do have that no-show mesh stabilizer on, so using tearaway now is fine. It just adds more stabilization. We're going to open these clips. Lay our stabilizer on, close those clips back up, now I can thread the shirt over the HoopMaster system. Now we're going to take a minute to get it nice and straightened out. I'm going to feed my shirt onto the embroidery machine from the bottom. So I need to make sure that my frame is facing the right direction. That's going to be like this. On my machine, these are what feed in first. So let's just go ahead and put this on. I put my design on a USB drive and I plug that into my extender. I feel like my extender will increase the life of the port. That's why I use it. To find my design, I'm going to go to Design Management. Then I'll click on the picture of the USB drive. Let's page down, and here it is. I click on it, there's a red outline around it, so now I click this green icon. It's assigning the number 15 to it. I'm fine with that, so I'll hit the green return button. Now if I click the back button, it shows up in the list of designs that I have saved to my machine. It still has the red outline around it, so let's hit the green icon again. Now on this screen, I can change the position of it. Remember, I'm going to feed this shirt onto my machine upside down. So the little F just shows you the orientation that it's currently on. I need to flip that F upside down. To do that, I just click on it until it looks upside down. That looks good, so let's hit this green check mark. Now let's find the hoop I want to use. I'm going to go to the hoop icon. Let's click on Choose Hoop. I think this is the hoop I want, but let's click on Choose Hoop. I'll page down. It has a red outline around it, so that's the one selected, so let's just hit the check mark. Now it's going to put it in the center. At this time, I want to go ahead and put my shirt on and figure out where my design should be. Now it would have made it easier if I would have put a position sticker on there so I know where I wanted the center to be. I didn't do that, so let's just frame it. There's an icon on the screen, you click on that, and then you can go around the perimeter or you can go around every little stitch. Let's go around the perimeter. So the top of it looked to be about 4 inches down. Let me go ahead and move the design up. And really, instead of moving the design up, you're moving the frame back. We'll frame again. All right, I might have moved it too far. Let's just barely move it forward. We're going to frame one more time. I think that looks good. Now, I did an experiment earlier today where I did part of a t-shirt with this water-soluble topper and part without. It came out a lot better with it, so I'm going to start using this on a lot of my fabrics. T-shirts, sweatshirts, not just towels. If you're not familiar with this product, I'll have a link to it in the video description below. Basically, it is an extra piece of stabilizer on top that keeps those stitches up on top of your fabric. It's really important that you use this on things like fleece, terry cloth, towels, things like that. But I really thought it did a great job on a t-shirt earlier today. Now that I'm ready to start this project, I'm going to click the back arrow and I'm going to change this from the preparation status to the embroidery status. The last thing I need to do is select my colors. I just want crisp white on this. I'm not even going to put fabric in the applique part. I'm just going to have the white stand out on its own. So I'll click right here. And I'm going to change my placement, my tack down, and my satin stitch all to white. Because I'm not actually doing an applique, I'm just doing the outline, I don't even need the position of the tack down stitch. They're not going to hurt anything, but I could actually skip over those. I think I'll go ahead and do the placement stitch so that my water-soluble topper gets stitched down. Then I'll skip over that tack down stitch and go straight to the satin border. So let's go ahead and click Start. Now I want to stop this because I want to tell you something. Keep your fingers away from the needles. If you're going to put your fingers near those needles, make sure you have a cell phone in your pocket in case you need to call 911 so they can come and cut you loose from the machine. If you feel like you have to get that close to the needle, use a chopstick. Now I went ahead and stopped this so that I could pass by that tack down stitch. To do that, you click this button right here, and then you move to the next color. Now all my colors are white, but it knows what I mean. It's going to move to the satin border stitch. Now that it has all those underlay stitches done, it's going back and it's adding that nice, beautiful satin border stitch. It's going to do this exact same thing for all the letters, so let me put some music on here. We can relax and just enjoy the show. This is so cute. Let's go take a look at this. Here's the shirt, and it is really, really cute. Now let's start by taking off this water-soluble topper. This comes off very easily. You do want to still be careful. You want to be careful with anything you're working with. But it tends to just peel off. Then you just go back, clean out the pieces inside your letters, and of course I still have some in there, so I'll have to take a little bit of time to clean that up. But it's not hard to do, and I really feel like this is worth it. I'm going to show you the fabric that I used earlier today. It was from an old t-shirt, and it's the one I was talking about earlier, where I did part of it with this and part without. If you have any parts left, you can take a damp rag and kind of dab it. That'll get rid of it. But that is so cute. I love it even without fabric inside. So let's go ahead and turn it inside out, and I'll show you how the stabilizer looks. Now this is where I wish I had a smaller hoop, but still a large enough hoop to do this, because you do waste quite a bit of this stabilizer. Now this will probably fit in my 5.5 by 5.5, so I'll save this part right here. This would probably fit in my 9 by 3, so I'll just save it all. Because this is tearaway, it's really easy to remove this. Now after the video, I'll clean this up more. That's good enough for now. Also, with this no-show mesh, since I used that temporary spray, I can just peel it back, and then I can trim around the design. All right, we're not doing any of that now though, because this video is long enough. So let's take a look at what I was talking about. And I went ahead and cut it out. And you probably can't read my writing. Let me show you what I did though. I started with the W, and I cut it off before it finished because I saw what I wanted to see. Then I stitched out the other letters. But basically, from here, up, over, down, over, and up. All of that was done without the water-soluble topper on top. This part was done with it. So if you compare this that didn't have it and this that did have it, you're going to see why I used it today. That is a huge difference in my opinion. Now I have another design for one of the sleeves. It says EST for established 1993. So I'll do that on a video that's coming up soon. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me that thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you're interested in any of the stabilizers I used, a Smartstitch machine, check out those links in the video description below. Thanks again for joining me, and until my next video, bye-bye.